Good morning, everyone. This is T. Falcon Napier. Welcome to Building a Career That Matters. Today, we're going to be talking about what happens if there's a lack of professional development, and hopefully, I'll be able to open your guys' eyes to a broader understanding of what professional development actually does include and why it can be such a problem for people that are, trying to get business going in our line of work. Today's roadblock is it's actually number 11. Why didn't I change that? So, lack of professional development. The key question here is, how do I stay relevant? And so, to give you a little bit of glimpse into what's going on in our community, I'm going to show you the results of the current study of human development professionals regarding this particular question of ongoing professional development. And so we basically ask them to rate their ability to keep themselves current with everything they need to know to run their businesses. And what you're looking at here now is the composite change grid for the entire population, some 214 people that have completed this so far. And again, these are all people that are in the human development industry. The vast majority of them are coaches. Obviously, we do have some consultants and trainers sprinkled in, but most of these are coaches. Now, for those who aren't familiar with the change grid, I know visually it looks very complex, but it's actually a very straightforward kind of thing. It just has a lot of richness in its background, and so those different colored lines all do mean something. So please don't let them, clutter your brain right now. Just kind of accept it as a little diagram and know that you can learn what it all means if you take this class starting tomorrow for free. So, but here's what I want you to kind of notice: the circles each represent one or more people from the population who rated themselves in a way that landed here. So we asked people to rate the level of ability they have to perform an activity and the level of challenge. Well, your answers for ability and challenge end up plopping you someplace on the change grid. Inside of each of those circles is a number. If the number is 1, it means one person from the population plotted there. If the number is 2 or higher, it means that many people plotted there. So interestingly enough, you see a lot of ones scattered here and there, but let's look towards the bottom of the change grid, and there you see 20 people plotted right there. They gave their ability a 10 and the challenge a 2. And we've got 19 people who said their ability to keep themselves current was a 12 and the challenge was a 0. Right next to them, 13 people, 11 people. Look at how heavily populated this section of the change grid is based on that. And so don't think that all circles are created equal. They are most definitely not. So up here at the top of the grid, we got lots of 1s, a couple of 2s floating around. You get towards the bottom, look at the 6, 9, 6, 6, 8, 20, 6, 7, 11, 13, 19. Okay, lots of people plotting quite far down grid. Now, the diamond represents the ideal location on the change grid. We believe for people to perform this task most effectively, most naturally, they need to rate their ability as being around a 9 and the challenge around a 9 as well. Well, right now the population is plotting on average where you see the triangle. Now, the triangle would be an ability of a little bit less than 10. So the average person in this population actually thinks they've got lots of ability to take care of this ongoing professional development requirement. And they only see the challenge of doing it as around a 4. And again, we're suggesting more like a 9. They're going a 4. So right now we have a huge disconnect about how challenging it is for someone to actually stay current. Now, we researched this further and asked people what were they thinking about when they answered this question. And it was very interesting, very, very telling. They said they were only looking at what was required for them to maintain whatever designations they had earned. And so their idea of professional development was just kind of confined to meeting whatever the continuing education requirements were for them to maintain whatever that designation is. And so if that's the frame that someone's going to put around professional development, and they are involved with an organization that requires continuing education, then in all likelihood, they've got a whole list of things they could go and pick and choose from, and they know it's really pretty straightforward. Here's how many credits you need. Here's all the courses you can pick from. Here's how many credits you get from each one of them. Pick something. And so for them, I can understand why they go like, oh no, my ability to do that's very, very high when the challenge is actually quite low. So they do that. So whenever we look at this, whenever we see people plotting further downgrade than is desirable, what we know we're looking at is untapped potential, and that untapped potential translates into unrealized profits, unfulfilled dreams, unmet missions, that kind of thing. And the way that we kind of correct this is by opening people's eyes to what this question is really looking at. So we want to increase the standards against which someone is measuring their performance. We want to change the task in some slight or profound way that ends up engaging them more. And so we'll get into that in a bit more detail as we work our way through this. But I want you guys to just kind of understand what's going on with this population. Now, if you guys want to know where you would plot on the grid right now, I'm going to ask you the same question. You're going to need to give two numbers and answer this. So when it comes to keeping yourself current, when it comes to running your business or operating your practice, etc., how do you rate your ability right now to do that? How do you rate your ability to keep yourself current? And go ahead and type me an answer so I know you guys are actually here. So, what number would give yourself? And again, your number would be somewhere between 0 and 12, 0 being low, 12 being high. How do you rate your ability to keep yourself current? Okay. All right, then so yeah, I'm getting some relatively high to very high sorts of answers. So I'm seeing a 9. We're getting these things, higher numbers on here, 9, 10. Now, how challenging do you think it is to keep yourself current? Now, again, the scale is the same from 0 to 12, 0 being low and 12 being high. How challenging or difficult do you think it is to keep yourself current? And let's see where you end up plotting here. All right, so I'm seeing a 7 for challenge. Okay, that's pretty good. A 4 or 5. So the challenge is only a 4 or 5 due to time. Remember, the lower the number, the less challenging it is. So Eugenia gave me a 10, 10 there, very far out grid. The challenge is finding the time to do it. Okay, interesting. Interesting. All right, I want to help redefine some things because you guys would now. I gave three very different plottings, but if you average them out, the average individual is still not plotting quite where we would want them to be. So now let me show you this in a little bit more detail, so I can tell you what's going on with people in our population. On this layer of the change grid, you see the levels of tension labeled stress, power, power, apathy, and apathy. And again, if anyone on the call doesn't understand what these labels are, then you need to take Mastering Personal Change. So um, we don't have a lot of people that are up in stress at all when it comes to maintaining their professional development or providing it. So I get it; it's not something that's keeping people awake at night. We have a couple of floaters, even power stress, where there's a sense of urgency around it. We don't really see the people have any urgency around doing the professional development. In fact, if I drew a line horizontally across the change grid, you can see there's very few people floating above that line where they consider this to be a puzzle that merits some level of thought and exploration. Instead, look at all how heavy everything is down grid where the puzzles have actually been resolved. So we got lots of people in power apathy. Power apathy sounds like this: oh, I know I need to do something, I just wish somebody else would do it. So, or even apathy, where the phrase is, do something, I don't need to do anything, everything is just fine. So people seem to think that this situation is not anything that really merits any of their attention. So now we can look at a different background for the change grid. This is the layer that shows us the energy someone has around it. And right now, people are plotting as driven analyticals, and we want them to be solid drivers. Now, remember, the driver energy is all about making something happen. And so when it comes to your ongoing professional development, and we're going to be talking about 5 different areas for that professional development equation to be fully realized. And in all likelihood, even you guys are probably thinking of only one of those 5 different areas. So we'll see how that all turns out as we get to that part of today's program. So we want people to be a solid driver. The driver knows they want to do something, they know what they're going to do, and they are actively pursuing whatever that happens to be. An analytical driver, on the other hand, or rather, sorry, a driven analytical, on the other hand, is primarily an analytical. An analytical wants to understand something and know something. And certainly the average person in this population feels that they completely understand what it is that they're talking about when it comes to professional development, so that they think they understand it. And while they understand it, they also see that there is merit in them doing some of that. So again, they're not like in it to win it like that driver energy would be, but they have enough of that driver secondary energy that it gives them a little bit of an intention. So it gives them an awareness that if they did something different or in addition to what they're already doing on that professional development side of things, they would end up better off. And so you can see that's going up a little bit there. Now, take it to the final layer, and everyone, I want you to be looking at this, so I know that you know what these areas are all about. We now have everyone, this particular layer is about how engaged people are at this activity specific level. And we want them to be right here in strong engagement, right there on the brink of that execution. So those of you who haven't been on the calls before, execution is really just a very focused level of engagement. So we're happy if anyone's plotting anywhere out here in this general vicinity, but we'd like them to be right there, 9-9 on that brink of engagement and execution. And instead, we've got people plotting uh, on the border between downgrid awareness and downgrid intention. So let me make sure you guys understand what downgrid awareness is. Downgrid awareness is like, well, it's like today in Charlotte. When you wake up, one eye is open, one ear is active, and you kind of hear the sound of rain hitting the window. And it's a little bit darker than it normally would be. So, you're getting a little bit of the sensory input from that one little eye and that one little ear that has awakened before the other half of your head did. And it's kind of going like, oh, I'm now aware of something. It's raining today. It's cloudy today. So this is downgrid awareness. This is kind of like, oh, look, X is happening. There's really uh, no strong emotion around it. It's just kind of like, yeah, I acknowledge it. X is happening. I am aware that X is happening. Now, it's on the edge of a downgrid intention. A downgrid intention is one of these um, semi-suggested, maybe someday sorts of things. And so a downgrade intention sounds like this. Maybe it would be good if someday I consider thinking about maybe dot dot dot. There's a lot of tentative thought going on there. So the person sees that there could be a positive benefit, but their energy around it and their level of engagement is simply not strong enough to actually pull them into doing something definitive about it. Now, these poor souls that are plotting way down in hypo awareness, way, way, way down grid, these people are running on autopilot. They really believe that everything is under control. And those of you who haven't gone through the nature of change, I would suggest you watch that video or again participate in mastering personal change. But one of the things that we say is that people who are plotting down grid, down in power, apathy, and apathy, begin to suffer from an assumption of control and an illusion of control. So they think everything is just fine. They assume that it is because at a certain point it was, and they knew that. And so they stopped paying any attention to it because it wasn't demanding any of their attention. But the world kept changing and they didn't notice those changes. And so very quickly that feeling of being in control gives way to, sooner or later, an illusion of control. So these people that are plotting down here in hypo awareness or down in apathy, and quickly, can add those up. That's 20, 40, 50, 60, 70. This is the better part of 80 people. You're looking at over 40% of the population in the study so far are plotting down there. 40% of our population. To me, that's really troublesome. So I went like, all right, we've got to do something about this. I need to shake people out of that downgrade awareness and intention. I mean, and even average that where people are plotting, recognize for that to be the average, half of the population has to be in a worse state than that. And so, averages are just averages. I'm very concerned about these people that are plotting down, 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 down in the deepest, darkest trenches of apathy around this. And so now I don't need to say to you guys, what do you think happens to a business owner who stops doing any kind of personal development, any kind of professional development? I mean, they think they're going to continue to thrive forever and then some? Absolutely not. In fact, I'm going to show you a little glimpse into the research in just a short while to show you exactly how this ends up expressing itself. So, okay, any questions or comments so far about this grid, or do we all recognize that while there is a real belief among our professional community that this is a non-issue? So, um, yep. Eugenia is asking an interesting question. How many people are attending this webinar? A low number might be confirmation of apathy. Well, it's very interesting. We invite well over 500 people to attend Building a Career That Matters. And every week we end up with somewhere between 15 and 30 people. So we're getting not even 10%. And that is an expression of apathy about this particular subject. Now, sadly, statistically, we also know that of those, well, let's just look at the study itself. Of the 215 people who have completed the current study, we know from prior studies that 1 year from now, a full third of them will no longer be in business. And so maybe there's an interesting study to be done about how do people who participate in building a career that matters fare in the continuity of their business versus the people who were invited but chose not to attend for whatever reason. So there's a lot of people out there. I can't begin to tell you, because we talk to human development professionals all day, every day. You have no idea how many people want to throw out there this thing that they don't have the time, they don't have the time, they don't have the time to do whatever the development part happens to be. But I can tell you that with rare exception, I've never met a human development professional who didn't have time in their schedule for something they consider to be important to them. And so, yeah, there are some that are far busier than others, but I have never met anyone who doesn't have time in their schedule for something that's really important to them. It really is more a matter of priorities than it is about time. So uh, okay, now with that though, let me give you a little bit more glimpse into this. I asked the system to separate the population by one of the demographics. This demographic was how long have they been in practice, and so I just want you guys to look at the position of the triangle so you can see what's going on. So people that have been in business for less than 1 year, and there's only a handful of them that have participated in the study. Quite candidly, the study requirements say that you've been in business for more than 1 year, but we get some people that kind of sneak in. And so here you go. There's, I don't know, maybe 10 people or so that kind of snuck in there. But look, they're plotting deep down in apathy about that, and they've been in business for less than 1 year. Now they might be thinking, because they're so new to it, everything they have is state of the art, because they haven't been around long enough for anything to fall out of popularity or out of vogue, or what's my word, out of relevance. So that might be what we're looking at here. They're new to it, so they think it's okay. If I go to the next slide, now we're looking at people that have been in business for 1 to 4 years. And now you'll notice that that triangle moved up. Not only did it move up, which means people who with 1 to 4 years experience have more tension about personal development than those with less than 1 year. Notice the interior of the triangle is now red. That red interior is an indication that they thought the importance was high. So the people who are less than 1 year only thought it was moderately important. The people that are in business for 1 to 4 years think it's very important. So now we go a little bit further. And now we see what happens between 5 and 9 years. And now the population has ended up slipping back. So just with, oh, no, that's not what no, I want you to look at 10 plus years. Um, 1 second. Yeah. Okay. So now you look at the people that have been in business for 10 plus years, and look what ends up happening. Now they have more attention around it. And so it's interesting to me that as you look at the progression, and I'm trying to find the diagram that I wanted to use there. 1 second. I'm pretty sure I captured this. Where is that? You? Bear with me just 1 second. La da 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 da. Yes, that's correct. Sorry. Slide this over. Need to swap out a different diagram. Let me know if you guys are seeing this screen now. Yep. Okay, so I had this on the wrong page. This is the population that has been in business for 5 to 9 years. So as they get even further along, they believe that the importance stays the same, but now they're seeing the challenges going up more and more and more. And then when we get to the people that are at 10 years plus, now they end up settling down a little bit. And so what we're pulling from this is the thought that when people reach that 5 to 9 year part of their business development, they recognize that something needs to be done to kind of update things, polish things up. And so we're kind of curious to know what the cycle is that people might go through when it comes to business development. And so I think it's really interesting that as we segregate the population by the number of year, we can actually see the progression that we really are looking at. Yeah. Okay, now let's see. What if anything, might this have to do with the stages of competence? Apathy, don't know what they don't know, so there's no compulsion to learn more. Power apathy, aware of what they don't know. Yeah, let me go ahead and address that, Daniel. What Daniel is making reference to is the model of adult learning that says that human beings go from being an unconscious incompetent to being a conscious incompetent, and then they do something to develop their competency, and then it becomes second nature to them. And when the cycle is complete, they end up as a unconscious competent. Well, that model has always been depicted as a linear progression, and we disagree with that. We believe it is a cycle. And so if we look at the change grid, and just again, I'm going to draw your attention to the two scales. Perceived ability, we've got low here and high here. Perceived challenge, low here, high here. And we got these four quadrants. So the big blue X in the middle of the change grid divides it into four quadrants. So over here in this quadrant, this individual would say that they've got very little ability, but they also have very little challenge. So this is also where things become pre-aware. This is an individual who would be unconscious. Again, there's no challenge. So challenge is what ends up bringing something top of mind for you. So in the absence of any kind of challenge, we don't expect that our brains are going to bother paying much attention to whatever that situation happens to be. And so this is where, ignorance is kind of bliss. So this person is an unconscious incompetent. Now, why are they incompetent? But they're in a situation where they have very, very low ability to do it. But they don't know that. So this area of the change grid is unconscious incompetent. Now, as they become aware that they don't know something, perceived challenge goes up, tension goes up, and they end up up grid. Now, as they end up upgrade, they recognize that to take care of the situation, they're going to need to develop their ability. And so they go out there and learn what they need to learn and develop what they need to develop. And they end up ending up outgrid. People that are outgrid are very much conscious and very competent. So they're on top of whatever it is that they need to be looking at and doing, etc. So, and then as they do that more and more, though, that level of challenge comes down again, and they end up down in power apathy or apathy, where they feel like they've turned what was once a puzzle into a strength, and perhaps even achieved some mastery along the way. Now, again, because people are so far down grid, they don't have any tension around these activities, so these things move to the back burner of their mind. They stop getting any attention because they're not demanding any attention. So unfortunately, as I said earlier, the world keeps changing. The people that are this far downgraded don't notice those changes occurred, and slowly but surely that competence gives way to incompetence, but they don't know it because they're unconscious. So I mean, that's a quick review. If you guys want to learn more about that, I'm happy to go in that in detail too. Let's see. Eugenia is suggesting there's some survivorship bias too. No, people who don't see the importance of personal development go out of business. They say 50% of small businesses go out of business in the first 5 years. Oh, yeah. And in fact, Eugenia, I would think that people that decide to get into the human development industry probably on average don't last that long. If they're going to go, they go quick. And mostly it's because there's very little required for someone to start this line of work. In the old days, the joke was that what a consultant was someone with business cards and a briefcase. So there's not a lot that someone has to do in order to enter our industry. So there's that. Now, Um, I don't know about survivorship bias because we were just asking people very simple questions. How do you rate your ability to stay current? So, but what we have kind of want to kind of focus on here though is what people mean when they think about professional development. And so with that, let's get into what these 5 areas of development are all about. And like we've done on all the other calls, as we work our way through this, I want you guys to do a little bit of an inventory. So, are you doing something right now when it comes to this particular area of your professional development? So, first one, the first area for business development or professional development is about better business strategies and business skills. Now, a lot of times, as I said, people think that professional development is just about getting the education you need to keep your credentials current. Well, you need to learn how to run your business more effectively. And so this is about learning how to better structure your business. This is about learning how to better manage your business, how to market yourself effectively, how to sell yourself and close the deal, how to bring on staff, how to manage money. It's got nothing to do with the fact that you're a consultant or a trainer or a coach. What you do is irrelevant. You're a business person first and foremost, and you need to make sure that you are developing yourself as a business person. And so, are you taking ongoing course development? Are you going? And even, a lot of people decide to get an MBA after they've entered the workforce. What are you doing in order to improve your business acumen? And so, want you guys to take inventory. When was the last time you did something that was all about business development? Now, interestingly enough, I'm kind of preaching to the choir because this program qualifies as a professional development a tool for helping you to better establish your business strategy and your business skills. By the time we're done with this, we're going to be talking about all kinds of things related to marketing and sales and anything else you can kind of think of about that. And we don't talk about things like staffing. Actually, we do. Yeah, no, actually, we do. So, this is it. So, business strategy and skills. What are you doing in order to boost your effectiveness about business strategy and skills? I like people going at this. Uh, yeah. Okay, great, great. Phrase the question that way. Push me. Okay, good. All right. So this is what it's really all about. What are people doing in order to run their business? I will say to you that the other four don't really matter if you aren't doing number one, because you're not going to be in business long enough to really care about understanding your population better, your programs and services, or your community presence. And if nothing else, maybe you'll walk out of this with a little bit of personal growth experience because of what you can't help but learn about yourself as people start a business, struggle, and ultimately fail if that's what their outcome is going to be. But I would say to you that if you have to choose where you're going to put your energy, you'd better put your energy in becoming a better business person. Because if you can't do that, the rest really doesn't matter. Okay, any questions about what I mean when I talk about business strategy and skills as the area for development? No, we all get that? All right. So again, got to be doing something there. Now, the next one is about understanding the population that you are going after. This is also about professional development. And so rather than just going out there and trying to drum up your next client or deliver whatever services you deliver, maybe you need to just stop for a moment and go like, wait a second. Choosing a population is a matter of science. So, what do I really understand about this population? What do I understand about how a population ticks? What really motivates that population, etc.? So, now what you might be really doing is something more on the research side of things. And whether you are doing research on the subject in kind of like a library sort of way, more of an academic piece of research about your population, or whether you're out there in the field doing surveys and seeking out areas of need and things like that to really understand your population. That's also, in my opinion, a very important part of professional development. And I put it number two for a reason. Once you've got your business working properly, then you got to have something to do to make money. And that means you have to identify some population that meets our 3 requirements. Remember, for someone to be a qualified prospect, they have to um, They have to need you, they have to want you, and they have to be in the position to pay for you. And so, how do I go about establishing who needs me and who doesn't? And how do I go about establishing under what circumstances they're going to want me or not want me? And how do I go about determining the price at which I might be able to do this? If you get good at doing this kind of research for choosing such a population, you can pretty much understand how to best set your fees or decide if that's a good population to go after or not. So, what are you doing to learn more about how to understand your population? So, yeah, you're going to learn about it, but what's this process you go through? Do you know how to do any sort of research so that you can find out what's really going on? In a way that you can count on, so you can apply that great business strategy and skill to something that's really got a strong chance of working. Let's see what comments I'm getting about that one. Yep. Okay. So, got to understand your population. So, again, I want an inventory, or I want you guys to do a little personal inventory here. What have you done, or when was the last time you did anything to help you better understand the population you are trying to work with, or the populations you are evaluating to work with? So this too is about professional development. Now, is someone going to give you continuing education units for this? Maybe for resource development, one of these peripheral things. But so many of the people that we talk to say, no, 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 unless it's going to give me the core requirements. I don't have time for that because I don't have any time, and I just think it's hogwash. I think time, if you, and this is, I'm saying this to all you guys, if you honestly believe that you have a time management problem, then I will tell you what you actually have is a tension management problem. Poor time management is evidence of poor tension management. The poor time management is caused by the tension management issue. It is not the other way around. And so, as busy as any of you may be, I promise you, there are people on this planet that are far busier, that have lots more pressures being placed upon them, and they seem to get a lot done. In fact, how often we've all heard the little phrase that if you want to get something done, give it to a busy person, because obviously they know how to get stuff done. So we want to get away from that. Let's see, a little comment here. I'm in transition in my biz and for the new markets. Have some online resource sites I use, and I'm about to start a class on the topic to kickstart my knowledge. Right. This is what we want to do. What are you doing in order to learn about your population? So no one may be giving you any credit for that, but your business is going to give you grand credit for that. So, understanding your population. The next one is about client programs and services. Well, based on your understanding of your population, you may need to gather together a different set of professional tools that you can use, so assessments and things like that. Maybe you need to put together a special kind of program that you think will resonate with whatever you came up as you completed your research. So, what are you learning? What are you getting trained in? Even if you're delivering a service like coaching, the population you're going after may need a different style of coaching than the kind of coaching you've traditionally been doing. So, again, people that really do well in the human development industry are not purists. So they don't decide that I am an X, like I am a life coach, and that's the only thing they ever do. If they do that, they're going to end up greatly limiting their opportunity, and they're going to be struggling with other roadblocks like maintaining client relationships and not leaving money on the table and things like that. The people that are most successful in our industry, even if you ask them, what are you? They kind of go like, well, I do coaching and I do some facilitation. I do the occasional program. I do some outreach speaking. I mean, they're telling us they're doing lots of different things. Now, that can also, as I said during session one of this program, that can also be a problem because they're starting to dabble in the discipline. So they need that lead thing that they do, but they also need to be flexible enough to say, over the course of time, as I evolve and as the population that I work with evolves, I may need to let my programs, products, and services evolve as well. And so I need to develop new skills, new insights, new understandings, new solutions, new products, new programs, new strategy. We got to keep that fresh. Now, this is the one that people seem to be putting their energy into. And mostly it's because that whole concept of continuing education kind of pushes people into this area. So you want to get renewed next year, then you need to complete 30 hours of training in XYZ. And it's always going to be about putting together, the better skills, putting together the solutions, all that stuff is really kind of part and parcel of what that association was really all about. So that seems to be where people put the majority of their emphasis. That's the okay. That's number three. Number four. Another area for development is in your professional community presence. It is one thing for you to go and get the designations, the education, the tools, the programs, whatever it is. It's another thing for you to make the kinds of alliances among your peers that allow you to learn about and perhaps get some sort of an advantage when opportunities do arise. I mean, we get a great deal of our business through referrals, and people can't refer you if they don't know you exist. And so professional community presence is about letting someone know that not only are you a good business person, and not only do you understand your population, and not only have you put together great programs and services for this population, but you're out there serving as a representative for others in this industry, so that they know, look, if someone's really doing something really good here. Look, they figured it out. They've really accomplished something. I aspire to be like that person. They're my role model. So this is what we're talking about when it comes to professional community presence. You are probably, as you do this, thinking more about how you can help others to develop by giving of yourself, serving in an organization or whatever the case may be. But you learn a great deal about yourself in those roles as well. So anything that you're doing to enhance your professional presence in your community of peers, this is something that also falls in the category of professional development. And I don't know how often associations will give you credit for serving on in some sort of a capacity outside of that association. They might give you some for their own association, but usually they're pretty stingy with it. Let's see if I'm getting any comments here about this one. Yeah, this one, yeah, people go like, I've neglected that one. Yeah. Okay, and then the last one is personal growth. Well, you should be the center of your universe. And so hopefully every single day you are learning something about yourself that is, valuable on one level or another. So whether you want to go out there and do something formal in the name of personal growth, like take some sort of workshop or retreat, or maybe you just decide to learn how to meditate, or you decide that you're going to read a book a month or something like that. This is what personal growth is really all about. You're not doing it for your business. You're not doing it for your clients. You're not doing it for your community. You're doing it for you. And this is a very broad kind of category. So what are you doing for your own personal growth? And don't think that it has to be confined to the business side of things. So, for example, my little claim to fame is that I can make a proper French macaron. Now, I don't know if you guys have ever had a macaron, but it's basically, people call them macaroons. That's really not correct. It only has one O at the end. But a macaron is a kind of a sandwich, kind of a cookie thing. It has no flour in it. It's totally gluten free. And in fact, not only is it gluten free, it's dairy free. So it has eggs in it, but it has no dairy product. But basically, it's two very wonderful little almond cookies, and in between it, you put something yummy and delicious, like a pistachio filling or something like that. And so these are like the quintessential French pastry. And with all the traveling that I've been doing, I've been spending a lot of time in France, and I learned that not only is a macaron a wonderful thing, but in the world of bakers, it's considered to be among the very most difficult things to master there is. And so I decided that as a casual cook here, I was going to master the French macaron. And Stephen can tell you that I went through many a batch of what we called macarons along the way, hollow and flat and squishy and dry and sticky and wrong shapes and no feet and on and on and on. So I made every mistake you could possibly make along that. But today I can crank out a bakery worthy French macaron. Now,
Let's be serious, OT. Even your macarons were still pretty good.
yeah. Macarons were they were delicious. I get it because it's the exact same cookie, but it didn't have the airiness. It didn't have all the things that
No,
a
it didn't.
proper macaron would have. And so, now some people might go like, "Well, what does that have to do with anything?" Hey, it's my personal growth. So I learned something. I learned about the discipline of creating a macaron. I learned that it's more about science to make one right than it is about the recipe. That you could give the recipe to anybody, and you'd be lucky if 1 out of 100 could produce a proper macaron. So this is really a very challenging thing. So I'm quite proud of myself that this was my little bit of personal growth. So I want you guys to think that you can do anything you want to do there as long as the focus is you. So let's do our quick little check in inventory here. If I said to you, how many of you in the past 12 months have done something to boost your professional development in each of these 5 areas? So, in the past year, how many of you have done something for each of these 5 areas? Yep, lots of things. Yep, good, good, good. This is what we want to hear. Now, some said 4 out of the 5. 4 out of 5 is really good too. Yep, yep, yep. Yeah, and some of you not so many, not so many. And you can imagine the people who don't come to a program like this are not really all that development oriented. I think there's a great many people in our line of work who really are doing it because they need to make some money and they figured it was a pretty easy thing to do, and somehow or another they've found themselves enough business. We're talking about people who really want to turn this into a business that matters. I mean, look at the name of the program, building a career that matters. Not just a career that pays, a career that makes a difference. And for it to really make a difference, I don't see how that happens if people aren't doing something in each of these 5 areas. And so with that, let me give you what your little homework is. So take inventory. Now, by minimum, I believe that every human development professional should be doing one event, whatever, however you define event. I didn't know what other word to use. Do one something per area per year. Now, when it comes to number 3, that whole idea about your programs and products and services, you may need to do more than one event per year in order to get your continuing education credits. But forget that for just a second. If there was no external pressure being placed upon you, I would say to you, you want to do a minimum of one event per area per year. But my real suggestion is that each month you choose one of these areas and you do something for that particular area and you weigh it out. And so if right now you think you've got more of a struggle, let's see, I'm going to flip a couple of slides real fast. Yeah, well, that's where we're going to end up. Let's just do that. You have to look at these 5 again and ask yourself, where am I lacking, or where do I really need the most work? So you might say that in the next year, out of the 12 things I can do, well, I need to do 3 things for client programs and services so that I can get my mandatory CEUs taken care of. But my big struggle is in business strategy and develop that. So maybe I'm going to give 3 more just for that one. My client population, I'm going to give a couple for that one. My professional community presence, I haven't done anything there at all. Maybe I'll do 3 or 4. You got to go through and kind of weigh them out and decide where you're really going to put your energy. Now, one last thing I want to show you about this whole idea is I want to show you the difference and how people plot. These are people who've got no ChangeWorks experience. Now, again, for the survey, for the study, we have all kinds of demographic questions. One of them is how much exposure they've had to the whole subject of tension management. The people with no ChangeWorks experience represent the lion's share of the people in the population, mostly because we didn't ask the people who are part of the ChangeWorks community to do it. We wanted it to be fresh. So nevertheless, there's always a few people who decide to take it anyway. So not surprising, the majority of them have no ChangeWorks experience. And look how low they're currently plotting, down in power apathy, on the brink of apathy when it comes to this professional development question. If I go to the next slide, these are the people that are actively involved in ChangeWorks. And again, there's only a handful of them because we didn't encourage them to take it. But what a difference. they're a full 3 points higher on the challenge scale, and they view it as being important. And so there's something about being involved with the ChangeWorks community that keeps this issue front and center. That there's a lot more to professional development than getting CCEUs to satisfy ICF's requirements. There's a lot more to it than that. And again, we go back to the order of these. You've got to make sure that you are putting energy into that business strategy and skills. So think about that. Just talking about tapping into the community. You're a member of right here. We give 52 hours of time every year to building a career that matters alone. 52 hours. If you run the math on that, you're looking at, say, how about a solid 7 day long seminar, all day, every day for 7 solid days. That's how much material we're covering as far as your business development side of things is concerned. When it comes to understanding your population, certainly we do a great deal in the community to talk about research that's being done. And for most of the people that are in the community, they're using the change grid in one way, shape, or form. Well, they can actually use that to better understand their population. So we're happy to teach them how to do that. So we try to give that to our community. As far as enhancing for the client programs and services, there's plenty of things people can get trained and certified in, and we're happy to provide anyone with their continuing education credits for any of the programming they work their way through here. We'd even give it to people for building a career that matters if we could figure out a way to easily keep track of who was on what. As far as the community presence is concerned, we do have a community, obviously. It's called the ChangeWorks community. So there's lots to be done to get involved with that community and help the community. And certainly, we like to think that we are doing things to help people grow personally as well. So while we do seem to talk a lot about the business side of things, I think everyone recognizes that these principles of tension management apply just as much at the personal level as they do on business as well. So this is what we want you to do. We do our best to kind of provide our community with these professional development opportunities. Obviously, you guys are on the call. You're a part of the community, so I'm singing to the choir. But yeah, we hope people will tap in to our community. So that's what I wanted to say here. So again, just in summary, keep in mind you've got 5 different areas of professional development. Make sure that every year you do at least one thing in each one of these. And so right now we're talking about the middle of March. How many of you have got official things currently on your schedule to meet your professional development objectives for the year? And how many of you have still got gaps that need to be filled? Still got gaps. Yeah, well, if you got gaps, if you look nowhere else, please look at our upcoming calendar so you can see what it is we might be able to do to help you on that. Again, this is a community. We hope that you guys will be spreading the news to other people about the ChangeWorks community and do that. So let's see. Any other questions about this? Let's see. Yeah, some guys are saying like I've got gaps. My big goal is to fill that gap. Exactly right. Now, again, for let me just tell you one other glimpse. Someone's asking for some specific suggestions on business strategy and skills. The most recent research we did on the human development industry showed that they were very weak in closing the deal, sales skills. And so I would suggest that all of you carve out time this year to learn how to sell yourself more effectively. Do not confuse sales and marketing. Marketing's job is to create awareness that you exist. A well deployed marketing strategy should result in you getting inquiries about your services. And that's where marketing ends. So, marketing is all about creating awareness and stimulating inquiry. Now, once that inquiry has come in, sales begins because now that we're talking to someone, we can assume that they have a need, or why would they call us? They've got to have enough tension, or it wouldn't have evolved to that little action step. So we have to go like, all right, now I need to do whatever's necessary to help this person see their situation in such a way that I can then present my services in such a way that they want to part with their money to put those two things together. This is what sales is really all about. How can I help that person understand their situation, help them understand my solution, and help them understand how these two things can be put together in a way that'll be both, beneficial for them and affordable and everything else people might be going for. So I would really encourage all of you to do something to increase your sales effectiveness. The second biggest problem that was revealed had to do with marketing yourself effectively. And we give a very strict test for marketing effectiveness. And so, without putting guys on the spot right now, but no, it's coming up later in the year for building a career that matters. Um, I'm going to ask you guys the question: do you consider your current marketing to be effective? Do you consider your current marketing to be effective? Yeah, Eugenia's got a question here. You're going to talk about people spend all their time. Yep, I'm going to do that. In fact, that's where I was going to end, Eugenia. So thanks for that little heads up. So, but going back to my little question now, um, the right answer to the question, do you consider your marketing to be effective, should be no, because here is the litmus test. And we're very strict about this. You can only say your marketing is effective if it brings you inquiries in excess of your capacity to handle the work. I'll say that again. You can only consider your marketing to be effective if it brings you inquiries in excess of your capacity to handle the work. Now, examine that statement. Again, marketing is about creating inquiries. Now, if it's only going to bring you the occasional inquiry, I don't know why you think that would be effective. It might be bringing you something, thanks. But marketing is supposed to put you in the position where you get to pick and choose. It's supposed to put you in the position where you get to say no. It's supposed to put you in the position where you get to increase your fees and choose more interesting clients to work with. If your marketing is not bringing you inquiries in excess of your capacity to handle the work, then you're not going to have a full calendar. No one has a 100% closing rate. And so if you only have enough inquiries to fill the calendar, you're not going to get all those inquiries converted. Your calendar will not be filled. There must be more inquiries than your calendar can handle. Now, if you only have a 50% closing rate, you need to have twice the number of inquiries that would fill your calendar in order to have enough to ultimately fill your calendar. So there's a way the whole math works. And so you can't say your marketing is effective if it's not bringing you inquiries in excess of your capacity. Now, that's not all of it. It's got to bring you quality work. There's lots of people who are getting inquiries to do work that they really don't feel like doing and doesn't pay them particularly well, isn't really in line with what their long-term goals happen to be. So you really have to be strict with yourself about what it is that has to happen for you to say your marketing is effective. And so I haven't met anyone yet, and we've been doing this for a very long time, and I'm not being cruel. I've not met anybody yet who actually is marketing themselves effectively. So you put those two things together. They're not getting enough inquiries about their services to put them in that position to even have a full calendar. And then they struggle to convert those inquiries into clients. So this is the area that the research is pointing to very strongly. And so I would encourage you guys to do something this year to carve that out. When it comes to understanding your population, one of the things that we certainly cover in MasterStream is about learning how to monitor and manage the level of tension that a population is experiencing about a given set of situations that they are currently facing or may be facing in the future. This is the foundation for understanding that population. So anything that you can do to learn about your population research techniques, etc., that would be a good thing to do. But the emphasis, I think, has to be placed on sales and marketing. Last comment is what Eugenia just brought up here. Um, she says, let's see, are you going to talk about people who spend all their time perfecting themselves and their businesses and don't just do it? Yeah, there's some people out there who are maybe suffering from perfectionistic tendencies, but I think more likely to be the case is they're suffering from creative avoidance. So they're call reluctant. And so one of their ways they go about making themselves feel better for failing to do the kinds of business development work that needs to be done is they go like, oh, but I'm taking this class and I'm going to this retreat and oh, I'm having lunch with this person that I met at this association association meeting and, oh, I'm going to volunteer for this. I mean, it's amazing how they can fill their calendars with all sorts of things that may actually have some value, but they're basically using them as a way to avoid doing the work that really needs to be done. I can't, on the flip side, so yeah, we got those people. I've also got these people who are convinced that they can't be successful yet because they haven't paid their dues. They haven't been around long enough. And I hear fear speaking. So I think that, to Eugenia's point, you just got to do it. Put yourself out there, make whatever it is that needs to be done happen, and whatever you have to struggle with along the way, you'll learn from that. You'll be fine. But this idea about people getting stuck in the preparation mode, so it's kind of like ready, aim, ready, aim, ready, aim, ready, aim, ready, aim. There's never any fire, so nothing really happens. Obviously, they're not long for the world if we can't get them out of that point. And I do believe that you guys can tell me if you have a different experience with people, but we all know people who started off in this industry, and they had great capabilities. So they had wonderful coaching skills, great training skills, great consulting skills. They were really good when it came to the delivery of whatever the work happens to be. But they struggled and they failed because they could not find themselves enough clients to meet their financial requirements. And so this idea about professional development, so easy to say, oh, I'm developing a better program. I'm learning another this. You got to learn how to sell yourself. Or really, what's the point? What is the point?